Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we have numerous rain warnings issued throughout the next 48 hours, as we are going to see some exceptionally heavy rain in places moving in from the west. Not only is it one batch of rain, it's multiple batches of rain, and many areas, as I said, have got yellow warnings. Not only are we going to see a lot of rain, it is going to be pretty windy as well, pretty gusty in places, feeling generally stormy. There is even the risk of overnight tonight even seeing some leading edge snowfall, as we have still got some cold air embedded in places further northwards, but for all it will be turning to rain as we progress into tomorrow. We'll be able to look at that in detail as well on the latest UKV, where we'll have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. And then we'll have a look at the longer range, see what is in store as we progress through December. Still hints perhaps of a return of colder weather as we progress towards the middle to latter part of the month. For the time being, the next week or so does look generally westerly with quite up and down temperatures, and there are tentative signs high pressure could make a return perhaps into next week. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can already see the first batch of rainfall is now moving in, very heavy in places, and as I said, there could be some leading edge snow. We're already seeing some of that across parts of Scotland. Elsewhere, to the east of this weather front, it's dry, it's cold, and potentially quite frosty tonight, but any of that chill is going to be swept away as we head into tomorrow. Much wetter, much windier, but also much milder as well. You see the temperatures as around 7 p.m, cold in the east, frost developing in many areas and feeling around temperatures around freezing in many regions, but to the southwest of England, parts of Wales and Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, now all temperatures are around that sort of high single digits, maybe even to the low teens over the coming days. And it's as this cold air gets pushed away, we could see some leading edge snow. Now, if you do have a look at the latest weather warnings, you can see we have got some ice warnings issued tonight. That is for the risk of bit before temperatures dropping down towards freezing, so we're going to see some ice, but also for the risk of some leading edge snow. Again, could be a couple of centimetres in places over higher ground, and again could be some freezing rain, but really we're not expecting anything too major, with most of the precipitation turning back to rain by the morning. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. And then we already have a rain warning issued from 7 p.m. this evening until 4 a.m. tomorrow for the heavy rain across much of Northern Ireland. But for most, the issues to this should have expired by the morning. Now, if you look at tomorrow's morning, look at that. We've got this whole array of rain warnings. We've got warnings across parts of the South Coast, South Wales, the Midlands, and then we'll look at northwards in a minute. Now, I've got this initial warning from tonight at midnight all the way until 7 p.m. tomorrow. And again, it's difficult to say exactly what these are covering, but this is the southwest England warning here. Rising in impact, generally pretty likely, low likelihood though. Again, could see 20 to 40 millimetres of rain, maybe 60 to 80 millimetres, and could be pretty horrible indeed. We've got this other warning issued for parts of southern England, sort of extending eastwards, and that starts at 11 a.m. tomorrow until 10 p.m. Again, a band of heavy rain will move eastwards, 20 to 30 millimetres in places, high likelihood lower end of the impact matrix. We've got this warning across parts of South Wales, again from midnight tonight until 6 p.m. tomorrow. And again, could see 30 to 40 millimetres, maybe 60 to 80 millimetres, higher on the impact and generally a lower likelihood. We've got this warning across parts of the Midlands here, again for heavy rain through from tomorrow at midday until 8 p.m. Again, could see 10 to 20 millimetres, maybe as much as 40 millimetres. Again, quite high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Extending further northwards, we've got another warning issued for parts of Northern Ireland, eastern Northern Ireland here, 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Again, 30 to 40 millimetres over hills, 20 to 30 millimetres for lower lying areas, 40 to 50 millimetres perhaps over the Mourne Hills there. So yeah, really unsettled. And then we have more warnings issued up here towards Cumbria. We've got up towards sort of northwest of England. In Cumbria, yeah, we've got from midnight tonight again until 7 p.m. tomorrow. We've got again 10 to 40 millimetres of rain, maybe 50 to 80 millimetres, and again snow melt could aid the flooding there. Got a warning across parts of southwest Scotland, again from midnight tonight until 6 p.m. tomorrow. Again, 30 to 50 millimetres, likely 70 to 90 millimetres, local areas. And then finally got a warning issued for eastern parts of Scotland. Again, 30 to 50 millimetres is quite likely, quite widely, 80 to 110 millimetres locally, higher end of the impact, lower end of the likelihood. Now again, we have skimmed through these warnings quite quickly, but if you are in these regions, do make sure you check out these warnings in detail for yourself. Do read the paragraph that has been stated, look at some of the expectations as well, and then make sure you do acclimatise yourself with those timings. Again, no guarantees that inside or outside those timings will have any specific conditions, but within those time zones, that's the most likely period of disruptive weather. Now, if we do move over to the UKV and see what it is showing over the course of the next 5 days, you can see the rainfall moving in through this evening. Maybe some leading edge snow, but most of it turning back to rain by the morning. And we see our second batch of rain. Again, this is what most of the weather warnings are actually issued for. And you see really heavy stuff moving in from the east, giving pretty horrible conditions for most during the middle of the day. Should clear the east by around 7, 8 p.m, maybe the far east coast by around 10 or 11. So yeah, impacting most of daylight hours tomorrow, but should clear by the latter parts of the evening. And then we do go see lots of horrible showers coming in from the west as the centre of the low moves through, and then seeing more rain move in for Saturday. Again, could be very heavy there across parts of England and Wales, and that continues into Sunday with some showers around. Does turn briefly dry, but then another low pressure system moves in. Again, dry briefly, and then more heavy, maybe even thundery showers developing there, right into the extended range. So it's looking really quite horrible, really quite unsettled as the westerly winds do power in. Many areas are likely to see in excess of 100 millimetres, maybe even more than that. And again, could see some flooding issues as these rainfall events keep coming along. As said, it's still going to be pretty gusty out there, or it's going to be becoming pretty gusty out there. Look at that 50, 60 mile per hour through this evening. Could veer inland, 40, 50 mile per hour at times, but we're not looking at anything too ridiculous. Again, there's no warnings issued, but it will be turning blustery 50, 60 mile per hour. Looks pretty likely for coastal areas, maybe locally inland. And even there into Sunday, could see even stronger winds, 70, 80 miles per hour. That could even be named if that did rain at that intensity before eventually it clears out into the North Sea. So very interesting seeing that. Could be some pretty stormy conditions, not only with the very heavy rain and gusty winds, but potentially some very strong winds there as we progress through into the weekend. Now, if you look at the temperatures, of course, it's going to be turning a lot milder with this rain. You can see a bit of a frost this evening for some areas, but by the morning, most areas are above freezing. And by tomorrow afternoon, it's still going to be chilly, 6 or 7 degrees at best in the east, maybe 11 or 12 in the west. Still chilly because we've got a trapped layer of cold air at the surface. But as we progress beyond that, as we head into Friday, it's going to be much milder. And by the day, you could see 8 to 10 degrees. Again, doesn't sound crazy, but relative to what we've had recently, it is going to be pretty mild. Into the weekend, Saturday, maybe even 12 or 13 degrees in the east, and into Sunday as well, could see it down at 12 or 13 degrees, and Monday, again, maybe 8 to 11, so really quite balmy out there, considering the freezing cold temperatures we've had over the past sort of week or two. Again, don't think it's going to last all too long, but for the next week, it's looking very possible we do see a decent stretch here of autumnal weather returning, i.e. not only with sort of the wet and windy weather, but with the milder temperatures as well. Now, if you look at the long range, see what the latest GFS has in store. Again, the westerly winds coming in at the moment, keeping us very unsettled, perhaps even stormy at times, especially perhaps into the weekend. Beyond that, high pressure does try to make a return next week, and it could settle us down. But the uncertainty with the models is where the high pressure goes. The GFS has a go at building it northwards, and that is perhaps a longer term pattern we need to keep a close eye on. But at this stage, it doesn't have a lot of success and kind of allows low pressures to ride over the top of it, meaning we're going to be sort of oscillating between air masses quite often, and we are generally going to see colder, milder, wet and windy weather, but equally some dry weather at times. So a bit of a mix as we progress into the longer term. You can see this with the upper air temperatures, some quite cold air moving in for a time, but equally we'll see some milder air moving very quickly, as that isn't any extensive blocking. If compared to the GM, again, westerly wind continuing to power in off the Atlantic, looking really quite horrible. High pressure again tries to build in for next week and actually successfully builds over the top of us and does have a go at reaching northwards. And this would eventually allow this northerly wind to come in. Again, uncertain how long it would last or how potent it would be, simply because that ridge isn't extending too far northwards yet. But yeah, the risk is there, and that is what a lot of runs are showing into the second half or even final third of December. So we need to keep a very close eye on that evolution at day 10. But up until then, generally westerly and generally average to above average. If compared to the ECMWF, again, westerly winds continue to push in, but then high pressure builds in by day 10, and instead of actually being further westwards, it's actually further eastwards up towards Scandinavia, but by this stage it's actually putting in a pretty mild southerly wind, and you can see we are around 6 to 8 degrees above average. So ECMWF doing something similar with the higher pressure, but pushing it further eastwards, which means it's actually drawing up a relatively warm air mass there by day 10 compared to the other runs, which developed sort of oscillating cold and mild weather. If you do look at the latest ensembles, you can see this generally above average over the next 5 to 7 days, but again, nothing massive. Then a dip below average, and then perhaps a slight jump above average. Again, I wouldn't look at that longer range too literally, but it does highlight a bit of up and down. Drying trend though, so definitely a signal that high pressure could be making a return into the second half of December. So air masses, very uncertain in the longer term, but definitely looking like now we're going to see high pressure return. But it's what capacity does that high pressure return? Does it just return straight over the top of us? Does it develop to our east like the ECMWF? Does it develop to our west? Or does it even return to our north? And that will decide whether it's a milder high pressure system, a bit of an inversion under the high pressure system, cold and frosty but dry, or whether it's northwards and develops a proper cold spell once again. I have to keep a very close eye on it, as I said. Dew points definitely do suggest a bit of a cooling trend in the longer term. Again, means colder air masses could be close by, could see an inversion take place even if we see milder upper air temperatures. To keep a very close eye on that. And if we finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, which we're going to have a look at the midnight run because it hasn't fully come out, the 12 o'clock run. Again, generally milder over the next week. Cooling trend and then turning milder again. But again, I would probably not look at those upper air temperatures in too much detail in the longer term, as they haven't been changing a lot, but very similar to the GFS, a drying trend, which definitely does suggest the possibility of high pressure making a big return from around maybe the 14th or 15th of December, but we'd still need another couple of days to have a look at that in more detail. But I do expect in the next sort of 5 days or so to start to see the return of some very cold operational runs, simply because that evolution looks very possible, maybe even likely, into the second half of December, and I'm pretty sure we'll see at least a few runs trying to hint at it in the very near future. Even some of the runs today starting to show that high pressure migrating northwards, cold air spilling out of the Arctic, but just not quite getting there yet. So it'll be very interesting watching that over the coming days. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.